Yeah.
You give me one shot here on a blue chip stock, believe me, Kevin, the only problem you're gonna have is that you didn't buy more.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles.
What's going on, NBA draft fans? Your boys are back. The Wolves of Ball Street, the Draftdaq NBA Draft Podcast. My name is Corey Tulliba. I am here, as always, with my co-host, Albert Gim. Albert, what is good, brother?
What's going on? Hey, for our listeners out there, you guys probably have no idea, but we haven't recorded it in a minute. We actually kind of like doubled and tripled up recently, and we've been gone for a while, but it's good to be back. It's good to have the legend back in the building, and we have an insane guest today, and he's probably one of our favorite guests that we've ever had on the pod. So, Corey, why don't you go ahead and intro our very important, very special guest today?
Yes, sir. We're back in a big way. We got my guy, our guy, Pee-wee, the motherfucking plug from the Through the Wire podcast. P, what is good, brother?
Man, I'm so happy to be back with you guys, man. All the work y'all been doing with the no ceilings, been fantastic. Love seeing the growth for y'all. And I like the momentum y'all having up coming to the draft. It's been a big year. And I'm happy to be here. I feel like this is different since the last time I was here. Y'all are much more bigger. I'm in spaces and guys are talking about draft stuff and they're mentioning this and they're mentioning that. And they mentioning y'all. And I'm like, oh, okay. My guys, I'm making moves. I'm seeing Corey, you got the old ESPN look in some of the videos now. Yeah. That was dope. I'm happy to be here, man.
Yeah, man. That was those have been fun, man. You know, look, I'm trying to bring all my influences, the stuff that made me want to do this stuff when I was younger. And I was waking up 6 a.m., you know, trying to watch SportsCenter, no internet, needed to get the bottom line, the ticker, right? And, you know, a lot of those SportsCenter guys are the reason that, you know, I love sports media, right? So it only felt right to pay homage and mesh that with the draft world. But outside of just the fact that we got P with us today, doing a full-on breakdown, because the last time you were here, we did some sleepers. We hit a bunch of guys because it was right before the draft. But we are going deep on one of the hottest names in the draft world right now, Johnny Davis from Wisconsin, guard, 20 years old right now, just turned 20. He'll be 20 on draft night, 6'5", 195. I couldn't find any measurements for his wingspan, but I think just looking at it, it feels like he's got a pretty plus wingspan to me. I think the length is going to be good. Averaging 20 points on the dot, 8.1 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 2.3 turnovers, 0.6 blocks, 1.1 steals, shooting 44.6%, 33.3% from behind the arc, 78.2% from the line, 53.8% true shooting, PER 25.3. Johnny Davis is having himself a season right now. I mean, the leap he's made from year 1 to year 2 has been impressive, and you see it in how much his stock price has jumped. Preseason, he was unranked. He was unranked on the Draftdaq, IPO. He was unranked on most major outlets. And then in December, something happened. He started buzzing a little bit. All right, ESPN moved him up to 31, Tankathon to 25, Basketball News to 26, Bleacher Report had him all the way at 8 back in December. Sports Illustrated had him all the way at 5 in December. No ceilings, we had him at 28. It was an average price, 20.5. He was 21 on the Draftdaq stock price updates. And then currently, ESPN moved him up to 9. The Athletic has him at 5. Tankathon has him at 7. Basketball News has him at 8. Bleacher Report has him at 5. No ceilings had him at 5 in the February big board. Average price 6.5. Currently ranked 6 out of all of the prospects in the last Draftdaq update. So, P, I'm going to ask you. We're going to start it out. Is Johnny Davis stock price too high, too low, or is it just right at 6?
6, I think, is just right. It feels just right for me. We obviously have the big 3. You know, Jabari, Chet, Paulo. Then right at 4, I think it's a consensus of like Jaden Ivey. Yep. And then at 5th, you know, with a wing a draft that doesn't have as many wings, you have to kind of consider AJ Griffin at 5. Yeah. And then when you get to 6, it's Johnny Davis. Depending on who you ask, maybe Keegan Murray. We still have people who are high on Jalen Duran. And you have that kind of circle. So I think 6 is just right. And I don't think any Johnny Davis fans can complain with the type of rise he's had. I mean,
Yeah.
anything in the top 10 is, is more than enough. But I do think 6 in my heart is just right.
Albert, what about you?
For sure. I mean, I definitely agree. I think on my personal board, I have him 6th right now too. So that feels just about right. He might be moving up though, honestly. I was telling Corey right before we started recording, I mean, I've watched his games this season. I think the first time I saw him was when I was in Vegas. I didn't see him in person, but I was actually with Rucker. We were having lunch at some, you guys have to know this about Rucker. This guy's fancy, bro. He only eats at fancy spots. We were walking around the hotel and like we ended up at like Wolfgang something steakhouse, whatever, for lunch. And I'm like, bro, I'm pretty poor. I can't afford this. But anyway, we're sitting there. I'm eating like, I don't know, a cup of water. And I look up at the TV and Wisconsin playing. I was like, oh, this Johnny Davis kid looks good. And I think at that same day, I think Mike Schmitz tweeted about him. And I think that's like kind of when the hype train was starting to roll with him. So for me, yeah, man, I like his game a lot. Doing the deep dive, I think I'm starting to like him even more. But 6 feels just about right because I mean I agree with everything that P said. I think the rise in his stock has been unbelievable, and 6 feels just about right for me too.
He's had the craziest rise of any prospect in the entire class. I also have him at 6 on my personal board right now, so that aligns pretty well with consensus. And P, you mentioned some good names. All right, so I'm gonna do a little exercise. I'm throwing this out there. We haven't done this before. I'm gonna give us all a hypothetical. We're just gonna say $10. Okay, I'm gonna give you 3 prospects. You can invest $10 in one prospect, or you could split it up however you want. Okay, so I'm gonna give you $10, and you could split that up between Johnny Davis, Jaden Ivey, or AJ Griffin. Okay, so Albert, you start first. You got $10 to split up between those 3. You could spend it all on one of the guys, or you could split it up, whatever you want to do.
This is a great start.
Wow, that's insane, dude. This is really tough. Okay, I have my answer though. I love Johnny Davis a lot, but Jaden Ivey is kind of crazy to me the more I watch this guy. But then I also love AJ Griffin a lot too. And I think, to be honest, like I think the point that that you made about like the lack of wings, I think that's a really good point. Although, I mean, we're gonna get into some other guys eventually, but like guys like Matherin, and there are some pretty decent wings here. But I think you have a really good point because AJ Griffin has such a high ceiling as a wing. I think that's why we have to have him in that top 5. But okay, so my answer is I would invest $4 into Jaden Ivey, and then $3 in AJ, and $3 in Johnny Davis. I think that's the best way for me to go.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's actually how I split mine up too. That's how because I don't think there's a ton of separation, and I get confused on all of these guys at times at the top. It's going to be like dissecting their games to the most minuscule details by the end of this draft. All right, P, $10. What do you got?
So I agree on what a lot of Albert said. I do like AJ Griffin. I was a bit of a guy that was highly critical of him at the start just because of the injuries. It's very tough to invest. The more and more we get this history of guys that have injury histories, and it just happens in the NBA when you take that chance, and the writing was on the wall. It's super touchy for me, especially when we're talking about top 5 picks. We're all from the same era of where like top 5 picks are supposed to be legit. We're not even questioning it. This is a pillar in the program or the the organization. As of late, it hasn't been like that. But I'll probably have to put like, I want to say 3 with AJ Griffin, but a part of me is also saying 2. I'll do 2. No disrespect to him. I just like these other 2 guys more. And then with the 8, I'll go 5 Johnny, 3 Jaden. And the reason being, I didn't want to take the easy way out, which is split it 4-4 Ivy, Johnny Davis. But I'm gonna give a little edge to Johnny Davis because me personally, not that there's a right or wrong answer, I really love basketball players. Nothing against guys who are athletically gifted like Jaden Ivey, or guys who are blessed with size like Chet. But when we talk about basketball players, I think the potential and you know, there's no ceilings, no pun intended. There's really no ceilings for basketball players. And I think at the next level, that's what it's about. It's about the playoffs, winning basketball. When you get to that level, the best of the best, when coaches, you know, and teams, they look to eliminate things. And basketball players find counters to get to their spots, or, you know, to make their weaknesses turn into strengths. And I think that Johnny Davis falls in the lines of a basketball player. It really reminds me of Devin Booker. And I'm sure we will get to guys that, you know, we think as comparisons or similarities. But the Devin Booker one is so obvious that I know a lot of people like us hate to say it, but it just is what it is. You know what I mean? The mid-range game, which is kind of coming back with DeRozan and Chris Paul and Booker, KD, Ingram. You know, his intensity. I'm a big fan of guys who turn on, you know, the clock for the big moments, and we've seen him do that against Purdue and Jaden Ivey plenty of times this season. And the hunger, the guy don't come from nothing. I kind of enjoy that, and I'm into the intel and the storyline and the you know, the backstory on people. And I think he has everything in it. Nothing against Jaden Ivey or AJ Griffin, but I just love pure basketball players at the next level.
I mean, I think what your point is super important, right? Like, the NBA today is not what it was as far as relying on athleticism and how much we put the importance on that. Like, back in our day, right, we had T-Mac and Kobe and Vince, and like they all had this crazy bounce, and like everybody was trying to find that. And guys started getting drafted based on that profile, right? Thinking, oh, maybe we can get the next one, not knowing those guys were all crazy skilled, and it wasn't their athleticism that made them, it was their skill. The athleticism is what made them the superstar, right? But they could get by without it. And that's why you saw Vince like age so gracefully and be able to play almost 20 years, because he didn't need the bounce. He was just a crazy, crafty, skilled guy. And you're starting to see that with guys like Tyrese Halliburton, who no one's going to say he's crazy athletic, but he came in, he was able to contribute right away because he's smart. He's a smart basketball player. He just knows how to play the game the right way. NBA teams are no longer like looking for, you know, guys who could just go ISO every single possession, and like they want guys who make quick decisions in basketball plays. And I think Johnny is that guy. And I'll tell you, like, Jaden Ivey is somebody who's confused me the whole time. I started out pretty low on him. He's grown on me a lot. But like you said, like, am I being blinded a little bit by his crazy athleticism, which might look a little bit more human in the NBA? And then like downplaying the concerns about his shot? Like, these are all things that run through my head when I rank him, for sure, because like you, I really enjoy the basketball guys. Let's start out with Johnny shooting, because I think that this is one of the areas where I think some people question what he is, right? Albert, talk to me about him as a shooter, what you like, what you don't like.
So, okay. So I was really interested to talk about this with you guys, because the more I watched him, I'm like, oh, I just like it a lot. You watch his shooting, especially off the dribble and the mid-range. P, you talked about the mid-range game, him going to his right hand, pulling up. It's pretty automatic. It looks pretty, it's so smooth. It's like, you know what's the cool thing about Johnny Davis? When he is in the mid-range and he goes to his right hand and he pulls up, the thing that crosses my mind every single time he takes a shot is you can tell how much he's worked on that shot. Like, it's the same every single time. And it's almost like, you can almost, if you're a Johnny Davis fan, you can get a little emotional here, because you can see the hours and the dedication that he's put into that shot, because it's so smooth. It looks the same almost every single time, and it's really damn effective. So that I really love. And it's like, you know, we're going to talk about the space creation. We're going to talk about all those different aspects of his game. I do want to say he doesn't have a perfect game, right? But what I wanted to ask you guys is more about the 3-point shooting, because the mid-range shooting I think is fantastic. He does it in a lot of different ways, whether he's on the baseline, he's, you know, at the elbow, whatever. It all looks awesome. The 3-point shooting is my question, because from what I saw, I felt like his misses were a little inconsistent. Sometimes he's long, sometimes he's short. But mechanically, it looked totally fine to me. No hitches. It looked pretty much the same. What I noticed was when he was shooting off the catch and he had a second to set himself, it was pretty much automatic to me. It looked really good, and he hit it a lot more. I thought off the dribble is where he struggled a little bit from 3. Wanted to kind of get your feedback on what you guys saw, because once again, like when he's catching and he's set, looks fantastic. Off the dribble, I still think it looks good, but it isn't going in as often. I know he's shooting like 33% from three right now. So I was wondering what you guys thought and why you think, the numbers aren't really as high as maybe you'd want them to be. And maybe off the dribble, it could be a little bit better, was what I was thinking.
All right, P, how do you feel about his 3-point shooting translating to the league?
When it comes to his 3-point shooting, I'm kind of like you with Jaden Ivey. I'm trying to really wrap my head around the 3-point shooting, because I agree with almost damn near everything that Albert said. When I watch the shot, I don't see anything wrong with it. The free throws look nice. The mid-range look nice. So you would think this dude would be shooting closer to 40%. He would be like, 37, 38. So, when I started to really look at him and watch him, and I would see the numbers for the 3-point line, it was surprising, because I won't lie, I wasn't, I didn't come into the year having Johnny Davis on my radar. I caught along like everybody else. So now I would look at box score numbers, and I would see the high points and everything. I'm expecting a guy that's about to be shooting lights out from three. And that's what intrigued me, is that it wasn't that way. So I'm like, how is this guy scoring? And then you see the mid-range and everything. I think he can project the same way. I think he could be a 33 guy. I think he can get higher. I just think it matters the role and what team he's going to be on. Wisconsin isn't the most talented team. This team would not be anywhere without this guy. So that's also my question for Johnny Davis, is what role is he going to? I think that obviously it matters for every prospect, but for him specifically, is he going to be paired with somebody who can create looks for him? Because if that's the case, then I agree with Albert. He may be project to be a better 3-point shooter, because if he gets the extra time and he's set, the shot does look better. Or is he going to be put in like the Devin Booker early Phoenix years, where there's not really a consistent steady guard he's being paired with? And he's going to have to create a little bit more for himself. Then it might get a little iffy. But like if he goes to the Spurs and he's playing with somebody like DeJounte Murray, who can make defenses collapse constantly and put pressure at the rim, he may be able to thrive in a situation like that. But I am a fan because of the mid-range game. I think it also opens up the 3-point shot. Like I watched Wisconsin, and they do a play where there's two options for him. He can come off a double staggered, but if the defender tries to beat him there, he can reroute and go back door and go to the block, and he has the entire right side of the floor, isolated for him. And it's like, if you have to worry about eliminating the mid-range shot and trying to stop him from getting to the block, and he reroutes off a double stagger, that's a very good shot that I like. And I think just that alone creates so much for an offense that it wouldn't bother me if he was a 32, 33-point shooter, percent shooter in the next level. How many attempts is he shooting? 4?
Let's see. Let me get that quick.
Somewhere around.
It's probably somewhere around that. It's probably like 4.5, something like that, which is honestly pretty decent volume for a guy who's working his way. So 3.5. So 3.5. So almost 4.
Okay.
Almost 4 in a game. I'm with you guys. I'm not like super concerned, because I don't think he needs to be a knockdown 3-point shooter to be effective at the next level early on, especially. And I think when you're talking about like if he gets paired with a good guard, I think if you look at the top of the lottery, as long as something crazy doesn't happen, I think it's very guard heavy. It's very guard heavy. So like I think that he will get paired with other guys that can make plays for himself. The one thing that I have with the shot is his right elbow flares out a little bit, almost chicken wings.
Okay.
Like slightly, and then he brings it in and it looks smooth. But I think, that's stuff that they'll work out, tighten up. I think he'll struggle at first just because he's not a guy who gets a lot of elevation on his shot. So as the games go on and you extend the line just a little bit, he might struggle with that to begin the season as a rookie, adjusting to the line. But the follow through is good. I think he's got good touch. Right. Well, like I think he gets good arc on a lot of the shot. Like the makes look good. The makes are super encouraging to me. And one of the other reasons he's shooting it, I think, at 33% is because he's self-creating a lot of the attempts.
Mm-hmm.
He's shooting it off the bounce versus you look at some guys who are primarily shooting off the ball. He's got to create on the ball and get those off the ball looks. So there's a mix of tough shots where he has the whole attention of the defense when the ball is in his hands. And at times, I almost feel like Wisconsin doesn't run enough stuff through him. Like he starts out so many possessions on the weak side of the floor, just chilling, waiting for action from some of the other guys. But like when he has the ball in his hands, the defense is locked in on him. So I think all he needs to do is knock down enough shots that teams are going to respect him enough that they're not going under on ball screens. And if they do, can he make them pay? And I think he can make them pay. So I'm not super worried. And like you said, the mid-range stuff is automatic and he can get to it. And that's that self-creation ability, right? Like I think a lot of people question him because they think he's like a tough shot taker and maker. But I think that there are levels to taking tough shots, because is it a tough shot for most people versus it's one of his spots, so he can get there and it's not as tough for him. Almost like DeRozan. When DeRozan gets to the elbow, that's a tough shot for a lot of people because he's got guys draped all over him. They know it's coming. But he's practiced that shot, like you said, Albert. Like you could tell he's put in the hours over and over and over. So he gets there, and that's just he's worked on that. He's expecting to get to that spot. He knows what to do. He's rising up. He's got the timing down. He's got the pacing of it down. So I think when he gets to that spot, it looks so clean because he knows like this is my money shot. It doesn't matter how you guard me. Like I'm getting this bad boy up. So I love that about him. How do you feel about his ability to create space, and how do you think it's going to translate at the next level, Albert?
Okay. Biggest thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of space creation, and I know they talked about it a lot on the telecast for different game, like a bunch of the Wisconsin games, but clearly from last year to this year, the kid's gotten a lot stronger, and that shows on the court. And I think his strength is not just upper body strength, but it's his lower half as well. I really think he got stronger from top to bottom. You see it in his step backs. There's like a really nice balance that he has to his step backs, and he's not afraid to take the step back. He actually likes the step back a lot. Not as much as Cam Thomas last year, but he does like to step back a little bit. But the upper body strength is awesome because once he starts getting downhill, the way that he can shed his defender with a pullback or whatever, it's like this thing where, of course, it's the handle is a part of it, but his shoulders and his upper body so strong, just like a little push, and the guy goes flying, especially a college level defender. A lot of these guys, they have to get their weight up. They're not strong enough to keep up with him. And so he creates a lot of space with his strength, has a strong lower half too. I thought it's not even a critique. It's more of like a nitpick. So it's not even that serious. Yeah. I thought maybe like on the step back, he could create a little bit more space. Maybe he can hop back a little bit more. But what are we talking about? Like, it's totally fine. Definitely not a major issue with him. But I like it a lot. I think the handle's pretty good. I don't think his handle's elite at all. But I think his handle's really good. I like when he pulls it back too. He creates good separation there. Yeah. What do you I actually had a question for you guys. What do you think about his first step? You think it's like, I didn't think it was lightning quick, but he just, like you mentioned, Corey, like he knows how to get to his spots. My only concern is, will it be a little bit harder I don't know. It'll definitely be harder for him on the next level, but are you guys worried at all with the space creation? Like, do you feel like most of his space creation is coming because he's just bullying these college level defenders, or how do you guys feel about that?
This is interesting because this is where I was going right here. I was going to ask you what you think, because a lot of people think there's like, he's not athletic, right? And they have those same concern. Is he too strong? So I'll let P answer your question first, and then I'll go into how I feel about it.
Well, for me, first and foremost, I'm not the biggest fan of the separation, but because of the shot making ability, it doesn't concern me. And I think when you are a mid-range shooter, watching and being a guy that played, the mid-range area is always kind of going to be crowded. It's only so much space you're going to create there. Unless you're James Harden, you're playing in a Phoenix style. Houston style of offense, right, which Johnny Davis, it won't be. The first step, I think, is average. I think when you put him in a league, it won't be like Zach LaVine's or anybody else's. But that's why earlier when we first started the conversation, I held my hat on being a basketball player. I think his arsenal is why it won't be a problem. Because even when you talked about the strength, like getting to the basket, being able to finish, getting to the free throw line, that puts a lot of pressure on a defense, especially when you have that pull-up mid-range jump shot that you talked about that is almost identical every time he shoots it, especially going to his right. If I'm guarding him, I don't know if I'm preparing for the mid-range pull-up, which my coach is going to prepare me for all week to be ready for that pull-up. But then if he mixes it up enough and he's taking it to the basket like I've seen him, even when he rebounds, he has no problem with physicality at all. And he can post up, which is what I like. It's like he has so much in his arsenal that I don't think he really would. The league would be worried, would be in trouble if he did have a lightning quick first step. I don't think he would need one. You know what I mean? And obviously he can get better. The handle is average. There's a lot of things that's kind of average, but I'm hoping that with potential that it gets somewhat better.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not that concerned with it, but yeah, I don't look at his first. When I watch him play, first step did not come to my mind. I won't lie. It's not a guy I'm like, oh, that first step. It's really the shot making and how, like you say, he's able to get to his spots. And I think you brought up a good question that I really don't have an answer for. Is him getting to his spots because he's so much stronger than a Max Christie, who's, a freshman. That I don't have an answer for. And I think that's a great point to consider with Johnny Davis. Is he going to be able to get to his spots when that's Devin Booker and not Max Christie from Michigan State? So I'm not sure with that, but I don't think of it as too much of a concern at this point, at least.
Basketball players adjust, right? So he might be able to dip that right shoulder and create a little bit of space to get that little shot up, but when he realizes that doesn't work at the next level, he'll adjust and he'll figure out, all right, maybe I got to pull up quicker. Maybe I got to throw a counter. Maybe I got to throw a pump. Like he'll adjust to that. I don't think, obviously I'm with you. I don't think he's like this crazy athletic specimen. When you compare him to other guards around the league, he's not making the dunk contest. I don't think, but there's something about the way he moves that's so slick and so smooth. Like I feel like he glides, and I almost feel like I don't think he's got an elite first step when comparing him to some of the elite NBA guys. But when I see him move on a college court, it looks quick. It's not fast, but it's quick because he's decisive about it. So he knows where he's getting. So I feel like it's efficient. It's quick and efficient. And that's what I like about it. Like, especially the fact that he can go both ways. Like when he's going left, that's when I really like that first step. It's just, there's something smooth, and I just love watching that kind of stuff. So
a lot of times too, just to add to that, when I see him, he gets almost lower than the defender every time.
Yeah,
he gets very low.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That helps too.
That's what he's low. It makes you fat, like you're quicker. He's just quicker. He's efficient. He knows what he's doing. Where some guys, they want to freelance. Like I wrote about Blake Wesley today, and when you compare a guard like him, basically the premise of the article was sometimes some guys are like a mirage. They got all the tools, they got the look, the highlights look great, but you watch the film in depth and it tells a different story. And when we draft these guys, we just want to look at the positive stuff, like how much, how hard of shots he can knock down, the crazy space creation. But like, if he's taking so many, like, is it real at the next level? Is it good enough that an NBA coach is going to put his job on the line and be like, all right, you're our new draft pick. You might be shooting 41%, 25% from the 3-point line, but you know what? Let it fly, kid. Like,
right.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And when I compare it, like, he doesn't really know what he's doing, Blake Wesley, and he's a freshman. He's younger. He doesn't have that year that Johnny Davis had. He doesn't have the FIBA experience that Johnny Davis has. So he doesn't, he doesn't have all that to his game, but I watch him and I go, he can create these shots, but he's creating bad shots. There's, it's just like, it's playground stuff on a college court. And some of it's encouraging, but maybe it's a mirage. Cam Reddish is a mirage. As much as I want to love Cam Reddish on both of y'all's Knicks, it gets to a point when you look at his basketball reference page every year since college and you see the same thing. And that's not to say that Cam Reddish can't be a good role player, right? But what was he compared to when he came into the league? Like, or when he went to
T-Mac.
Yeah, like he's not. I don't think he's developing into that. Maybe he is. Maybe he will. I don't know. But the thought of Cam Reddish is always better than what Cam Reddish actually is, right? And you see like how frustrated. Why ain't Tibbs playing Cam Reddish 35 minutes a game? It's like, I don't know. Like, why don't you talk to Hawks fans? You know what I mean? Like, so
I didn't
these
sign up
players-
to hear this.
and these players sometimes that's what I wrote about as far as Mirage player. But I don't think Johnny Davis is like that. I think
you brought up a great point too. That I think it's an entire episode. It's an entire article in itself. FIBA play. When you look at Johnny Davis, you look at Jaden Ivey. You even look at a couple years ago Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh yeah.
Guys might want to consider coming back, playing some FIBA basketball, elevating your game. I'm just throwing it out there. It seems like something that has helped a lot of freshmen make a sophomore jump and go right to the league to be impact players. I'm betting my top dollar that Ivy and Johnny Davis are going to be impact players from day one. Halliburton was impactful. It was with the Kings, but it was still impactful.
Yep.
So that's an entire different conversation. But yeah, it's something about that FIBA play for freshmen who return that do something.
You know, you like when you're on that FIBA team, you're with so many other talented players.
Yeah.
That you have to learn how to contribute in ways that you're probably not used to contributing on the court. Halliburton's FIBA team was crazy. I mean, it was like Cade Cunningham, Jalen Suggs, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, like, you know, his FIBA team was crazy. This last FIBA team, though, on the opposite end, you had Patrick Baldwin Jr., who really struggled this year.
He did.
I actually wrote about him in that Mirage column, but I said I'm still buying stock in Patrick Baldwin
Me
Jr.
too.
even though the percentages are crazy.
You got guys like Kenneth Lofton Jr. was on that team. He wasn't the MVP or something.
Yeah, he was. Chet was the MVP, but Lofton was crazy.
Yeah.
He was going crazy, man. I love Kenneth Lofton Jr. He's the weirdest player there is.
I got one of my childhood best friends. Every time we talk about college basketball, he has something to say about Kenneth Lofton. He loved that. He loves that guy.
He's a basketball player.
Yeah, he is.
He's a basketball player, you know, like measurements, weight be damned. Like that dude just knows how to go out and contribute, right? His dad just going hard for him on Twitter, and I can appreciate that.
I haven't even seen it.
What do you think of Johnny Davis's passing? Because the assist numbers, you know, I think he's at 2.2, something like that. 2.3 turnovers. But I feel I've seen some stuff that I like. Albert, what'd you get really diving in? What kind of impression did you get about him as a playmaker?
Okay, so for me, when it comes to his passing, I want to connect it to something that's a little weird. I think his biggest weapon, I mean, we're already talking about a lot of the great things that he does. I think his biggest weapon is his left hand. And I want to talk about that because this guy has a really good left hand. And it's perfect that P's on the pod today because, you know, when we look at RJ for the Knicks right now, one of the biggest things that I've noticed with him recently is, of course, like he has the confidence, the swagger, everything. He looks fantastic on the court. He looks different, right? Visibly different. But the biggest thing that I noticed with his offensive repertoire is that he's going to his right hand a lot more. And he's pretty comfortable finishing with that right hand too. And when I look at Johnny Davis, his left hand finishing is pretty awesome. And I like how comfortable he is dribbling with that left hand and driving with that left hand. And he can also make passes, live dribble passes with that left hand too. And so I'm trying to connect all this together. And I think his left hand makes him such a dynamic offensive player, which also speaks to that space creation stuff that we talked about before. Because I think the more that he develops that left hand, the more he's going to have at his arsenal to do different things that defenses are not going to be ready for and he's going to kind of throw them off. And with the passing, yeah, he's not Josh Giddey. I love that he's like the first name that comes up now, which is really cool, right? He's not Josh Giddey. He's not Chris Paul. He's not a lot of these great passers, right? But he's a really good passer. And you could see it on the tape. I think it was Metcalf or somebody posted on Twitter a bunch of the passes that he was making. And yeah, it wasn't like and one mixtape stuff, right? He's not like flipping and doing like 360 pirouettes while he's throwing passes. Shouts to Starberry back in the day. But he can make really solid reads. He can, a lot of the drives that he's taken to the basket, as you mentioned, P, he's not on the best team, right? So defenses are collapsing with 4 or 5 guys every time he attacks a rim, and he sees the guy in the weak side corner. He sees the guy in the opposite wing, right? He can make those passes with either hand. And so I was really impressed. Once again, I don't think he's going to be I don't think he'll ever be a primary creator. Maybe he will be, I'm not sure, but he passes more than enough for you to be happy with.
Yeah, he made in the Purdue game with it that he had 37. At the end of the game, when guys were, obviously like he's going off, guys are guarding him close. He made this live dribble left-handed pass to the weak side corner, coming off a screen, getting downhill. That was such a big play, and when he made that pass, I was like, oh, that's a legit pass. Right, because not just knowing that the weak side corner is where you want to go there, but being able to do it off a live dribble with the left hand, buying your shooter just that split second extra time was huge. I agree with you. I don't think he's going to come in as some kind of primary distributor. Maybe a team will give him that role similar to how like Zach LaVine played point guard early on, even though obviously that was never going to be
terrible,
right? His role. Jalen Green has a lot of that same kind of responsibilities this year, even though ideally that's not what he ends up being, right? But it helps them in the long run. You see it, Jaden Hardy gets that in the G League a little bit. Like Jaden Hardy's probably not going to be that guy, but they're like, it's the G League Ignite program. We're not trying to win games, right? Like we want to win as many games as we can, but that's not our goal. Our goal is to develop these guys for the NBA, and he's getting these reps that he's not used to. So maybe a team does that with Johnny Davis. But I think that if you're using him as a guy who learns how to leverage his scoring ability by making plays for others, I think he's going to be real capable of that. And I think I could see him being a guy who's averaging between 4 and 5 assists a game in a secondary, tertiary type role. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing from him as a passer.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Just using the offense. Kind of, we see a lot of guys do it. DeRozan wasn't some crazy playmaker coming in, but over the years, as he polished up his game, he's used that to be a guy who can, rack up assists. And still to this day, DeRozan isn't some Josh Giddey. We'll use that again.
No,
but it's just about making a simple read. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of these guys, when they are on teams early in their careers, whether it's DeRozan was a highly touted player, so every team he was on from a lower level, even in college, he was the guy as scoring. They come into the league and they're not used to having to pass the ball. And the league is the highest level of competition. They're going to send double teams. They're going to take this away, cut this off. You're going to see different looks, bigger bodies. So you're going to have to learn how to pass. Sometimes you're not going to have a damn choice but to pass, even if you don't want to. And I think he can be one of those guys that falls right in line with that. And you hit it on the head. If he's put in that position early on, which you also said earlier, the way the teams look in the lottery, he probably won't be.
Yeah.
It will help him in the long run. Like, I think Devin Booker benefited from that the most. Like, I love the growth in his game. And I'm hoping that Johnny Davis can have a similar type of, development coming in, being a scorer, and then using that to be, a guy who can just make reads. You don't have to be white chocolate, but just being able to make the read, you know what I mean? And have hopefully some good teammates around you, because I think that's also a thing. Like, oh yeah, if I'm Devin Booker and I'm coming off a screen and I'm throwing it to Josh Jackson in that corner, I'm going to lose faith and it becomes a dark hole. Or if I'm Zach LaVine and my first couple years in the Timberwolves, they're making me be a point guard. Now, when I finally get my chance to be the shooting guard, all I'm thinking about is scoring, because I'm finally being able to do what I came here to do. So, but I do think it can grow. I want to see more of it, because you can see highlights and plays here and there. I want to see it more on a consistent basis, but I try not to hold it too much against him, because he does play for a team that isn't, overwhelming with talent. But I also don't want it to make it seem like Johnny Davis is just this perfect prospect either.
Yeah, no.
So definitely something I'm taking in concern. I also don't like. I'm a turnover police. I hate when guys average. I don't care if it's a point more. I hate when your assists and turnovers are anywhere near each other. That's my biggest pet peeve. I hate a guy who averages 2.2 assists and 2.5 turnovers. It just irks me because you have to value the basketball, especially if you're going to be a prime. Even if you're not the number one option, if you're one of the top 3 guys, you got to be able to take care of the basketball and have that trust that when the game is on the line, you're going to make the right decision with it. So, something to look at.
I think one of the interesting subplots about this draft class is there's not really one of those perimeter creators at the top of the draft. Like, you can have those same exact concerns about Jaden Ivey. You have the same concerns about AJ Griffin. You can have the same concerns about Mathurin. Like, none of these guys in this draft are really going to come in and you're like, one of their plus strengths, first thing you talk about is their playmaking. So that probably helps each and every one of them in, kind of moving up the board, because there's not, I mean, right now, you see the league valuing those kind of playmakers like crazy, and they don't really have any competition. But all of those guys, I feel like they all have the same concerns, and they're all so close. And figuring out which one of those guys is going to be able to mesh that scoring ability with the passing, especially because like Johnny Davis, who spends a lot of time off ball in this offense, Jaden Ivey spends a lot of time off ball. He's playing off Zach Edey and Trevion Williams, and like college offense is just a lot of times just way different. And teams are throwing zones at you, and like there's all these weird situations where you don't always get to show like some of the NBA skills. So I think he's shown me enough that I don't think, like we just discussed, he's going to be some crazy playmaker, but I think there's some skeletons there that like a good team with good development can get out of him in time. But it's a process, because I mean, shit, Zach LaVine's in what year? And right now, he's still got stuff to work out as a playmaker, a decision maker. You know what I mean? So, like, very, very rarely does it happen right away. This is something we could have this conversation 5 years from now and wonder if he's still got room to grow, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about him a little bit defensively. He's a guard. I think that unless you're an elite defender as a guard, you don't have like a tremendous individual impact where you really make your impact on the defensive side of the ball. Is like, how do you stay on a string in a team concept, and can you figure out quickly where to rotate, who to help and whatnot. But let's start with the one-on-one stuff. Albert, what did you think of Johnny Davis on the ball?
Okay, so to put it simply, I don't think he's an elite defender, but I think he gives elite effort. Was what I thought. At least from what I saw. I thought he was really aggressive. He really fights to get over screens. I like that he guards a lot of the best players. That game against Purdue recently, against Jaden Ivey, he really tried to go at him, really tried to make his life difficult. First half, Ivey didn't really score much, was passing a lot. I wouldn't say that's all credit to Johnny Davis, but I like that Johnny Davis was there. I was watching this game from early in the season when they were playing Georgia Tech, and they're going up against Michael DeVoe. And Michael DeVoe probably, I don't even know if he's going to get drafted, but the dude's like still 18-point per game scorer for Georgia Tech, and he's their main creator. And I think that game, DeVoe put up like 30 points, and it was weird. Like DeVoe scored 30 points, but every time Johnny Davis was on him, he really made him work for it. So I definitely enjoyed that. My only thing with Davis as an on-ball defender, I thought at times he lacked like focus, or I don't know what it was. Like he would just sometimes just his man would just walk right by him, and it wasn't because he wasn't trying, but I don't know if he's like he was like lost with his eyes or what was going on. But there were a couple possessions I'm like, what the hell happened there? Was kind of how I felt. So once again, like I don't think he's a bad defender or anything. I actually think he's a pretty good defender, or a really good defender. I think he'll be really good. Maybe it was like his team that he was playing on or what it was, but there are a couple times I was like, what the hell happened there? But a lot of times I thought he showed great effort. I like that he took on the tough assignments. I like that he made those guys try really hard to score against him. So yeah, something I did want to mention about him, like the physio part of it. Guy has short legs. You guys notice that? He got some short legs on him. But I think before P, when you mentioned like he gets really low, or maybe it was Corey that mentioned it. I think part of that is because he has short legs. You know, he's kind of lower to the ground, which helps him. And I think defensively too, sometimes I feel like he moves his feet well, but he doesn't have lightning quick feet either, was what I felt. So it's good, but not great again, is what I felt with his footwork as well. So I like him as a defender. I don't think he's bad by any means.
Yeah, I like that he gets long and that he uses his length to help. His footwork, he crosses his feet a lot when he's moving, like in a diagonal, trying to keep up with somebody instead of kind of going side to side. And if it works for you, it works for you. But there are times that I think it lends to him being like a step behind. My concern with him is like he's listed 6'5" and he's strong. I think he's going to struggle switching up in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like NBA wings, especially because like there's going to in the coming years, like there's such a blurred line of positions now. And like there's going to be so many teams with just 3 6'8" guys on the floor at one time.
Yeah.
You know, like, and those are the kind of guys I think he's going to struggle with when they get like a head of steam downhill. Like I've seen a ton of times when, you know, he's on a guy's hip, they just like he does to the guys defending him, they'll dip their shoulder and he kind of just backs up. He can't kind of like body up and hold his ground as much right now. So I do think NBA strength is something he's going to struggle with one-on-one. But like you said, I think he gives good effort. I think he's slithery around screens, and you know that kind of smoothness, that the way that he moves that I said I liked. I think that helps. He gives good effort, and I think he uses his length pretty well when he can. All right, P, what do you think on ball?
I think he's solid. Lateral quickness definitely isn't blowing you away. But I also think, basically, like y'all said, I don't think he hurts you, but I also don't know. What I like is like little things that it's just like you just pick up, like him guarding Jaden Ivey. I noticed that too, and that's something that like I just make a mental note in the back of my head. That speaks a lot. You know what I mean? Because you're taking on that challenge. You know what comes with that.
The competitor.
You gotta like the effort. When guys like him score as good as he does, sometimes that's all a team asks for at the NBA level is some effort. Like a lot of times early in James Harden's career, it was just like, it's not that you can't guard anybody, but it's like you're not even trying. Can you at least try? And I think he has those two things going for him, trying, the size. And I think if he gets in the right the right environment, the right team, he could be a good plus defender. He could be a really, really good defender. Maybe not ever like an all-team defender, but he's definitely not going to be anybody where you have to, hide, so to speak. I do like your point, though, with the league going to this direction where the Raptors could potentially have Pascal, OG, and Scotty on the floor together.
Yeah.
He definitely could have trouble. I really don't like 6'5" players. It's just an odd height to me. I don't know why. It's just a weird thing in my mind. I hate when I see 6'5". It just feels like you should be 6'6" or 6'4". But yeah, I don't know. I hate the 6'5" thing. At the shooting guard position. At the shooting guard position, I hate 6'5" shooting guards. And like you said, with the lines being blurred, some team may draft him and try to put him at the 3. I'm seeing that a lot. I'm seeing 6'5" small forwards and things like that too. So I don't know. I don't like that. But hopefully, he could just guard his opposing shooting guards, the Bradley Beals of the worlds and everything. And I think he'd be able to hold his own.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy. Like you said, 6'5" from a shooting guard. It feels like every point guard now is like expected to be in that 6'4", 6'5" range too.
Yep.
And like the day of like the 6'1", 6'2" shooting guard, like if you're gonna be 6'2" now or as a point guard, you better be like Darius Garland, lights out shooter and like playmaker. Like I don't know, they're like going out of vogue, right? It's just like you want size at every single position. It's crazy the way the NBA is evolving. And a guy like Kennedy Chandler, who I think is going to measure in at like 5'10", 5'11" in the combine. Like, I don't think he looks 6 foot on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of that, and when we did like our preseason previews on No Ceilings, I was like, I'm a little worried about Kenny Chandler. I love what he brings, but he's just so short. And like, how many guys like that get drafted in the lottery nowadays? Like, it seems like you got to be so special to be that short to get drafted in the lottery. And it's just happening less and less frequently. And I don't know, it's kind of sad that you're seeing that kind of guard almost like disappear.
Dinosaur, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I like Kenny Chandler too. At the beginning of the season, he kind of reminded me of like Mike Conley, where it's just a point guard who's steady, doesn't really do anything wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is small. He is small, and when we talk about size, you know who it makes me like more? Donovan Mitchell, because he's like a 6 foot shooting guard, and he's unstoppable at times. So it makes me respect him a lot more. But yeah, it's very weird. You look at the OKC Thunder, Josh Giddey and Shea backcourt. They'll probably be able to draft a wing. Imagine if they draft AJ Griffin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So tough.
But what's crazy about Donovan, he got like a 6'10" wingspan. And that's like what you need. You need to be like have like a freaky wingspan if you're going to be a short guard now.
Yeah, Rondo. Yeah.
Right. One thing defensively, because how do you finish a defensive possession? You got to get a board.
Mm-hmm.
This kid is a freak rebounder.
Yes.
Over 8 a game, I think it was. Like 8.1 rebounds a game. That dude, he hits the boards hard. And
he does.
And it's I mean, I'm not comparing him to Kevin Love and the way that he used to rebound, but like a lot of it to me is like positioning and understanding of how the ball's coming off the rim. But I love how he goes after boards, and it doesn't feel like in the NBA, a lot of rebounds are cheap rebounds, right? Like the guys, because a lot of teams don't go for offensive rebounds anymore. So they're just like long shots. You get the rebound, you start in transition. College, they still play a little bit more traditionally. So he can really hit the boards.
Yeah, dude. That speaks to the effort thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think that's a consistent thing that you're going to hear when people speak on Johnny Davis and I know a lot of people who may not be fans of Johnny Davis are going to be like, oh my gosh, they're giving this guy so much credit for effort. But yeah, it's rebounding is literally an effort thing. That's all it is, unless you're triple-double hunting like the NBA players do. But it's always been something that's just an effort thing, how much you want it. And I think that's the consensus statement that we've given for Johnny Davis. It's just like who cares? It's the effort. He's a gamer.
Right.
And that's what kind of separates him when I look at him and other guys that are around his range. It's just like he's a gamer. I know when he plays against Jaden Ivey, he won't hide. He's going to want that. And for me, when you take away stats, you take away analytics, those are the things that matter when you talk about drafting somebody. And I think a lot of times teams in the past didn't really consider that because, like we talked about earlier, it was just like how high can he jump? Is it a 40-inch vertical? If it is, then we're just taking him. But those little things that got forgotten about, like taking on a challenge, I think he checks all those boxes, and the rebounding speaks for itself with that.
Yeah, dude, 100%. Oh, sorry, Corey. Quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
As I mentioned before, like his elite effort. P, you just mentioned it. He will guard the best offensive player, have no problem with it. Also, we didn't even talk about like off ball. Like he's pretty alert off ball too, and I like that too. But the effort is insane. Like imagine you're guarding the best player on the other team, and then you have the wherewithal and the energy and the effort to go and crash the boards with the centers. And even in that Purdue game against that 9-foot monster on Purdue. What's his name? Zach Edey, right?
Yeah. Like, let me tell you, I've never.
Holy crap!
Like, I've been to like WWE and sat ringside stuff. When I saw Purdue live, and I went to a lot of the Big Ten games this year to scout because one of the kids I used to coach is a team manager on Rutgers, so I went to a lot of Rutgers games. Shout out for the free tickets for basically any game I wanted. And that Purdue game, I'm looking at this dude in layup lines, and I'm like, this is the craziest person I've ever seen in my life. like he's the biggest human being. Like I'm looking at him, like he looks like an alien, man. The
What
only
is
other
it,
person,
7'5"?
I think,
Seven
I think he's
four, I
listed
think.
at 7'4", but like
Yeah.
it's pretty legit. It's pretty legit. The only other person I've ever felt that way about is when I stood next to Bol, where I was like, this dude isn't like, how are we the same thing, like
Same.
species?
Same.
Like
I saw that full bowl at a Hot Wings cafe here in LA, and he was wearing the ugliest red leather jacket I've ever seen in my life. And this was right before the draft, and I said, "Hey, man, good luck," and I just walked out. But,
We had to interview Bol, and I swear, he said 7 words.
oh,
I swear he said 7 words.
yikes!
Like, yo, Bol, we know you're into fashion. What's your, what you like? And he would just say like Nike, and that would be that. Like, I like Jordans, and it was
Right.
yeah. I didn't get to see him in person to see how tall he is. It was over Zoom, but man, 1 word answer king is Bol.
I love
Wow.
it.
That's fun.
Let's sidebar this for a second, man. How crazy was it being on stage
Oh,
with Allen Iverson,
mhm.
T-Mac, and Shaquille O'Neal? Like,
Oh God.
The weirdest thing in the world, just because to have somebody like Shaq and all of these guys who we all grew up watching, idolizing, he looked in the crowd and just pointed at me and told me to come here. And it's like a movie where I'm looking around like, you talking to me? And he's like, yes, I'm talking to you. Come here. And a lot of people thought it was something that was set up. A lot of people thought I knew Shaq and this was planned. And I had to tell the story 100 times. Like, I don't know him. We didn't see each other. It was unreal. I don't even know if I could put words into it. And the fact that they showed love, I like that it was in that setting and it wasn't in passing, because these are dudes that I really can credit to my love for the game. So to show T-Mac the love, because I feel like he doesn't get a lot. AI is AI. Everybody loves AI. Everybody talks about AI. T-Mac is a forgotten legend for some reason. Even with the top 75 BS. So to be able to give him his flowers and meet him. My dad is the biggest Allen Iverson fan you will ever meet. My dad got me and my brothers Iverson books. We watched Iverson movies. We had Iverson shoes. I've never worn a pair of Reebok in my life besides Iverson's. The jerseys. We had arm sleeves, headbands. So to get the Iverson signature on the Iverson shirt and then to gift it to my dad as a surprise, because he only knew I met him. He didn't know I got the shirt signed. That was a big moment, but it was incredible. And then I met Iverson and T-Mac. It totally slipped my mind that I met Shaq. I rarely talk about the fact that it was Shaq up there too. So it was dope, man. It was dope. I felt like a kid.
I think that Allen Iverson is since Michael Jordan, that era of NBA basketball, I think Allen Iverson is the second most important basketball player of all time. And
no argument from me.
Just like, yeah, he maybe he didn't have the on-court impact of LeBron or whatever, but like looking around the league, you look at the fashion, the tattoos. I mean, the fact that people wear armbands, like the braids. I mean, it all comes back almost to Iverson. The fact that hip hop is synonymous with like the NBA now, and it's like an accepted part of it from the league. I mean, to go from like how he was almost like ostracized about his appearance. Like, I mean, I obviously a kid, like I was in high school when Iverson was in the finals and all that. He's like the punkest dude alive, just like he was doing whatever he wanted. And the kid who was into punk rock and basketball was like this beautiful mix of like that punk rock attitude and just the way he changed the game, man, the imprint that you still see. I almost feel like he doesn't even get enough credit, regardless, even with people still talking about it. And like you said, the fact that this dude made Reebok cool to this day is wild.
We're talking about
Reebok. And don't get me wrong, like I'll mess with a pair of pumps. I'll mess with a pair of pumps, but the questions, I mean, after he stepped over Ty Lue, I needed the fours. Like I needed to walk into school with the zipper down on those things.
Yep.
And then T-Mac, man. T-Mac was my guy. He was my favorite player in high school.
Oh, okay.
Like his game was so smooth. And every time somebody gets compared to him, it hurts me a little bit because I think, like you said, like he's forgotten. Like people don't realize how nice T-Mac was.
They don't.
Like T-Mac in today's game would be like the perfect prospect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
This is a guy that was like, T-Mac was one of my favorites too. The only reason he wasn't my number one favorite is because of the Mamba. I was absolutely obsessed with Kobe Bryant, but Tracy McGrady, man, I'm talking about. Talk about effortless. Like he hurt me as a basketball player growing up because I tried to resemble him, and my dad would be on my ass because I used to try to be cool, make it just look easy, and I just don't have the God-given talent that he does. But yeah, Tracy McGrady, that was crazy. Tracy McGrady is definitely a guy that. Iverson is Iverson, but I feel like some of my love is tied into it because of my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy McGrady is like my own authentic, that's my guy type thing. And I still got his jerseys to this day. He was a guy that had posters on the wall. That was the one that got people texting me like, yo, I remember when we were kids and that was your guy. You know what I mean? So the only guy I got left, I never got the chance to meet Mamba, passed away, obviously.
Yeah.
But Penny, I need to meet Penny. Penny, man.
Well, I feel like Penny was a big reason that I liked T-Mac.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because Penny, as a kid, like those Magic jerseys, my favorite jersey of all time, right? And like as a kid, it honestly, I feel like it helped a lot of like my artistic influence was like from that era of basketball design.
Yes, it screams in your work.
That's
where you feel that. The aesthetic you bring.
Yeah. I interviewed for the magazine we did. I interviewed the guy who did all the artwork, which was cool.
Okay.
And we chopped it up for a while. But being like almost like a secondary Magic fan because of Penny, because of that era of Magic ball, and then like going to T-Mac, they changed jerseys up a little bit. I remember I used to sell rap mixtapes in high school. This is when like G Unit was popping off. Like I was selling stuff on eBay. Like I was getting crazy money from just selling backpack, eBay, all that. So me and my boy, we'd go to the NBA store every week and get an authentic jersey off the money we made selling mixtapes. And T-Mac was the first one I got, man. Like that, the Magic jersey with the black on the sides with the stars.
With the stars.
Like the faded stars, like one of my favorite jerseys ever. And ever since that, the Magic keep going downhill when they got these two classic jersey designs. It's unbelievable.
I hate it when they had T-Mac and they changed it and it was just the blue with like Orlando.
It's terrible. it's the perfect
like orange and black jerseys that they sometimes wear.
Yeah, it's a disaster. If anybody who is a part of the Magic franchise listens to this podcast, I promise you I could help you out and get you right with the direction of the aesthetics.
One quick question. For you two gentlemen, because I watch you guys obviously, and I love the random references because I'm a basketball junkie like you two. Who's like a guy that you guys loved that's like, oh, I really like the guy. I don't want to say favorite player, but a guy that wasn't like a star, if that makes sense. So everybody, because we all love T-Mac, Iverson, Kobe in some sort of way, but who's like a random guy that was still a good player that maybe wasn't on their level that you just like, man, that's my boy right there.
I mean, my favorite player of all time is on the Bulls. And
Captain Kirk?
Captain Kirk. Kirk Heinrich's my favorite player of all time. And like, I was around for the Jordan days, like, but I was a kid. I didn't fully appreciate what it was he was doing. But like Kirk Heinrich, that was me on the court. Like, like I could pass, I could shoot, I could defend. I couldn't do anything crazy.
That was a bad man in Kansas too. That was a bad man in Kansas.
Yeah, I love those Kansas teams. Nick Collison, Drew Gooden, and it was for the Bulls. It was just like a weird time. Like it was the post Jordan years, and it was like cycling through these weird guys. Marcus Fizer, like Eddie Robinson is getting high in the locker room. Jay Williams is like snitching on everybody about it. And then like Kirk Heinrich came, and it was like the first time the Bulls were normal for a while. And that first year, I was so happy because Jamal Crawford was my guy, and it was like Jamal Crawford and Kirk Heinrich on the same team for a year. but it was also a time when NBA League Pass I don't think it existed yet. So like I was staying up like what they play like I could watch like 8 games a year, the Knicks games and the Nets games. So I'd like stay up late, try to catch up. But that was my guy, Kirk Heinrich. Weird, just completely.
I remember those teams,
like
because there was no league pass, so I would just watch the local Chicago channel, and the Bulls would always play. That was my source to NBA. Heinrich was what, 4th, 5th overall?
He was 7th.
Okay, 7th.
That was the LeBron draft. That was the LeBron draft.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
And what happened was there were a lot of rumors the Bulls were trying to get Wade, that they were trying to trade up, and they were going to use. I don't remember if they were trying to trade Jamal Crawford and the pick, plus Donyell Marshall, or if it was Jay Williams. But the Jay Williams motorcycle accident happened right before the draft, and it messed up like the whole plan or whatever. And not that I think Riley was going to trade the pick, but like there were a lot of rumors that that's what they were trying to do to get Dwayne Wade to the Bulls. But that was a crazy draft. I mean, all timer.
Dude, I think for me, okay, first off, I wanted to say when you guys were talking about T-Mac, I was thinking about that era and thinking about my Knicks, and I was like, damn, like T-Mac was so good. All these guys were so good. As a Knicks fan, I was like watching like Marty Collins and thinking like, can this guy from Temple make it? And then my life was freaking miserable for it. And also, do you guys remember when like during that time, like people would wear the jerseys backwards? You guys remember that?
Oh yeah.
So I remember one day, dude, I pulled up to school in my jersey backwards, and like a bunch of guys gave me crap about it. Like, what's this Asian kid? Why is he wearing the jersey backwards? And I got all embarrassed, but I was like, F it, bro. I'm already here. But okay. Let's see.
Was that Nelly who did that first?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was always this like really tall Asian kid too. I was always tall. And so I really stuck out, but it's cool, man. I owned it. Favorite Knick of all time, who's not a star, it was definitely Anthony Mason. Loved Anthony Mason. R.I.P. Mace. Yeah, for sure. But like non-star guys, he's technically kind of a star, right? Because he won a title, but I always loved Lamar Odom. I always tried to model my game off of Lamar Odom because I was taller. And then like when you play with Koreans at my size, you're always like the tallest dude. And I remember like whatever league or whatever I played in, the coaches always made me play center, and I hated it because I was the only like tall kid there. Most Koreans are like 5'8", 5'9". I was like 6'2.5". They're like, all right, you're gonna play center. You have no choice. And I'm like, nah, bro, give me the ball. Let me make this happen. But love Lamar Odom, love Gilbert Arenas. He was a star though. And then like if we talk 90s guys, you know, Corey knows. Whenever we talk 90s guys, somehow I always end up on like Detlef Schrempf. I just love that dude, bro. I just thought he was so good and so tall and weird. And then like honestly, I have some weird comps for Johnny Davis that we'll get to at the end of this pod too. And I like those guys as well. So those are probably it, man. Unless we're getting really weird and talking about like Mo Taylor on the Rockets or random guys like that. So let me stop.
Moochie Norris.
Moochie Norris. Knicks legend. Moochie
Norris. Whoa.
Yeah. You remember like
we
this
can
is
get
really
real
random.
obscure.
You remember like Malik Rose? Do you remember Malik
Yes,
Rose? Like when
he was
you would like
first.
play D in the post, and then like they would post up, and you'd always pull the chair on them, and then Walt Clyde Frazier would always freak out and call him like this cerebral player, and it's like that's the only good thing he would do on the court.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about Malik Rose as a Knick. Only as a Spur.
Oh God.
What
Tim
about you,
Thomas.
Pete?
I love Tim Thomas. Sorry.
Tim Thomas is good. Yeah.
Tim Thomas ago, he spoke at a camp I did at Villanova. He was not interested in speaking to the kids. That's what I remember about his speech. Who's your obscure guy you were a fan of?
Lamar Odom is definitely like, but again, like he was borderline. I got 2 Lamar Odom jerseys right in front of me with the Clippers and the Lakers. Like I'm a Lamar freak. One that's more recent. I love this guy. I can't get this guy like away. And I don't care how far away he gets from the NBA. I love Michael Beasley. Like,
super cool.
I love that guy. I love him so much. Like, you would think he was my cousin or uncle, how the love I have for him. And the fact that he came to the Knicks and had those moments in the Garden. But yeah, Kansas State, Michael Beasley had me in a chokehold.
A problem. People don't remember. It was not like, hey, Derrick Rose going number one. Like it was
Yeah.
a conversation. Like people thought Michael Beasley was like gonna be KD possibly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, that was real. Beasley,
Dude,
you know,
he
whatever
averaged like
happened to
19
him,
rebounds a game. He was crazy.
Yes.
he was crazy.
Single-handedly beat Kansas by himself. It was
Yeah.
like him and Walker.
He
Who
can get
else? Some other
buckets.
guys? I definitely like white chocolate. White chocolate was good. I
Oh,
always
yeah.
had a thing for like
Yeah.
Kevin Martin with the weird.
Kevin Martin, yeah.
Tyson Chandler for those Bulls teams when they had
Ooh.
Captain Kirk and they would go into the playoffs and they would do the black shoes, black socks.
Man.
Yeah,
It's the fact they wear black shoes in the regular season, like they just gave up on that tradition. Like,
yeah, that was always so cool to me.
Yeah.
Larry Hughes, I used to like Larry Hughes. Him and Larry Hughes were
Ooh,
winners
that's a
together.
good one.
Who else did I like? Yeah, I used to just like Karolinko. Karolinko was like my favorite player when I was like 6th or 7th grade. I had like this big thing, Karolinko thing I was doing.
Jared Jeffries.
Jared Jeffries was another one. Yeah, Jared Jeffries was such a disappointment, but I for some reason really used to think he was gonna be like a problem. And
I think he was ahead of his time, dude. I actually thought he was ahead of his time.
He could be a small ball 5 in today's league.
Yeah, dude. 6'10" guy can guard point guards. I kind of liked him.
Karolinko might be a small ball 5 in this league too. Like you put
Yeah.
Karolinko on the
sure.
Raptors. Like he's a Raptor guy. Karolinko.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely.
Just like
And then JR. I got to end with JR. JR is just
JR.
like, you know.
Bro, JR is one of the most just pound for pound talented NBA players of all time.
Yeah.
Just raw natural ability. Like his career could have gone so many different ways. And he had a great career, long career,
Yes, he did,
champion, like contributor, 6th man of the year. I think he won 6th man of the year, right?
Yes, he did. As a Nick.
As
like-
a Nick. 18
but
points
he-
a game, baby.
But as like a shooting guard, he had as much talent as anybody who ever
One last
put on
random.
shoes, man.
And I'm so heartbroken this guy didn't have an incredible career that I thought he was going to have. Salim Stoudemire. Salim Stoudemire.
Oh, Arizona.
Yes. I thought I was going to Arizona as a top McDonald American recruit because of that dude. But yeah, I love Salim Stoudemire.
Yeah. The one last guy, JJ Redick, was my guy. I saw him because
Oh.
I saw him the McDonald's All-American game for that class was in New York when he was a senior. And I got the chance to see him win
MVP, right?
I got to see him win the 3-point contest. I think he did win MVP of the game. And then that's when I think Melo got a little upset or something, like froze him out of the next, like the Jordan tournament or whatever. But I loved watching JJ Redick, especially like he was another, like I was at a soft spot for the Magic guys. We can go on forever about this shit. Let's get back to Johnny Davis. That'll be another podcast. All right, Albert.
Mateen Cleaves.
Speedy Claxton. We just go off random guys.
Boy.
All right. If you're buying stock in Johnny Davis, who may you have bought stock in previously? You said you got some weird ones. I'm ready for him.
I'm ready. I'm weird, but here we go. Obviously, dude, the Devin Booker one is kind of uncanny. Like even to the point where like he's not a great 3-point shooter. Devin Booker is like what 33% from 3 for his career, something like that. So
bizarre.
It's kind of insane how much he looks like Book, even the way that he moves and stuff. It's like the F is going on here. Did he have like I don't know some long lost twin or something? It's freaking wild. But Booker's a really good one, and if that's his ceiling, then you better take him in the top 5, top 6. Had some weird ones. Like I thought of like 90s strong guards. Obviously, these are not going to be 1-for-1 comps, but like these guys were so physically strong and were able to like score in the mid range. Obviously, like some of them differ. Like the first one's like Jim Jackson. If you guys remember, Jim Jackson was, Jim Jackson was so strong and he had these freaking gigantic shoulders. So I have 3 names and I'm thinking like
Tony
maybe
Braxton.
he's a mix of all 3 guys. So the 3 guys that I'm thinking
His son went to
are
Wisconsin, right?
Who? Jim Jackson?
Yeah, I think his son went to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
as well. Weird connection.
I think so. So the 3 guys I thought of were Jim Jackson, Mitch Richmond, and Kendall Gill. Now Kendall Gill's a weird one. Like I get it. Some people might be like, who the hell is Kendall Gill? But if you remember Kendall Gill of the New Jersey Nets, get it right, everyone.
Great
but
cameo
those
on My
3
Brother
guys.
and Me.
That's I actually remember that one.
I just recently saw Kendall Gill in person too.
Oh, for
Very
real?
weirdly.
How's he looking?
He was
Still
at a
in shape?
tournament that my little brother was playing in. I don't know if he has
Oh.
a son or something, but yeah,
Okay.
still in great shape.
He
Yeah.
boxes, and
But,
things,
like,
you know, he's always
do you
calling out Jake
remember?
Paul.
Oh, well, do you remember Kendall Gill's shoulders? The guy
Mhm.
was like had these freaking boulder shoulders. But anyway, all these guys could score in the mid range. Kendall Gill, I thought, was a little bit more athletic than Johnny. Maybe not. I like Johnny Davis as an athlete. But anyway, I thought of these like bigger 90s guards who could operate in the mid range, who could attack the rim, who were kind of physically imposing. Jim Jackson had a really long career. He ended up, I remember, like, even when he was still playing when I was in like junior high school. So Jim Jackson was around for a very long time. Obviously, these are not one-for-one comps, but I just thought, like, and then Kendall Gill was such a strong defender. Always was a really, really good defender for whatever team he played for. And then Mitch Richmond, obviously dynamic scorer, whether he was Golden State or Washington or Sacramento, wherever he was at. He was a guy who could put up 20 points. So I thought of those guys. Obviously, once again, they're not perfect comps, but I thought of guys who can really score and who are pretty physically imposing guys. So those are my weird comps.
I like him. You got anybody besides D Book?
It's so hard to come up with one-on-one comps, like
Yeah.
Albert said. I think in some weird ways, I see similarities with certain guys that are like all over the place. So like, and I look at Malcolm Brogdon, they play differently, but like the size, and there are some similarities. Obviously, Malcolm Brogdon is more of a better three-point shooter, a much better three-point shooter, but the size and even the way they kind of move just a little bit. When I think about Johnny Davis, another comp that came to mind just from play style, and this guy isn't, I think Johnny Davis would probably have a better career, but just sit and think about this name and think about the best version that you could create in your mind of like Bogdan Bogdanovic. Like, not one-on-one, not head-on comparison, but it's something there. There's a connection that I see in some similarities. Obviously not as strong as Johnny Davis or whatnot. And I think the NBA has kind of changed so many players' games that I hope Johnny Davis can even stay the same player. You know, there's so many guys that I think like the league is like, man, just take 7 threes a game. You know what I mean? So other than that, play styles, I mean, a little Karis LeVert, obviously different body types of things, but you know, other than that, it's tough. Brandon Roy.
That's
yeah, that's a good one.
Definitely some of the Brandon Roy stuff.
So other than that, it's tough. That's the intriguing part about him, because I love comps. I know some people don't like comps, but I love them. And because there isn't like one dead on one besides the Booker one, which is kind of like the obvious one, it makes me intrigued. I've tried to find so many comps that are like, that's it right there, but I just can't. I don't know. It's something unique about him.
For sure. I got obviously D Book. I mean, I definitely have drawn the parallels with Brandon Roy, even though Brandon Roy is, I think a whole nother tier of,
for sure
what he was as a player. But the one I kind of liked a little bit. He's like a miniature version of Joe Johnson. You know, kind of like he's got that mid-range kind of post game that he can go to. He's strong.
Imagine if he had that handle. Whew.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. ISO Joe. I mean, so Joe Johnson was what, 6'8". So some of the stuff he was doing at that size, like a miniature version, is just not gonna be as effective at it. But I think there's some similarities there. But yeah, it's Book. D Book's the one that I think is going to be the most popular going forward, by far.
Yeah, not Kendall Gill, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think on the draft broadcast, Schmitz is going to have a highlight of Kendall Gill to throw to. If that happens, I
respect it though. That's what I love about doing this stuff with you guys, because we all kind of think the same way. Where we fight so hard against saying the obvious Devin Booker one. You know what I mean? And I was really looking and digging and looking. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough because like even the Bogdanovich one, it's just like it's so left field, but it's just like some similarity.
Yeah, there's something there. Like the way that the role he could be playing. Like he can carry your offense for spurts for sure.
Yeah.
But like, if you put him in that role full time, he's probably underqualified for it. I think there are parallels for sure. All right, Albert, it's that time. I need you to sell me this pen on Wisconsin's Johnny Davis.
I was actually like looking around my desk right now to find a pen. I don't have one. I guess that's just a 2022 thing, right? Like, who the hell writes anything anymore?
Yeah.
But let me sell you this pen. All right, Johnny Davis. This guy is, I mean, dude, he's going to be a really, really fun player in the next level. If you think he's fun now playing on this Wisconsin team, just imagine how much more fun he's going to be with NBA spacing. And it's kind of insane. I just feel like he's going to have way more room to operate and do the stuff that he's good at, which is exciting. And I think if you think he's strong now, wait till he gets into an NBA program. He's going to add 10 more pounds of muscle, and he's going to look just like the legend Kendall Gill. You know, he's going to be really powerful. He's going to be a problem with his shoulders and everything. So, and also he's a two-way guy. I think it's fair to say that Johnny Davis is a two-way guy. He's going to give you great effort defensively, as we talked about on this pod. He's going to go and rebound the ball really well. He's averaging 8 boards in college. Who knows how many he averages in the league? He may have a 10 rebound season one year where he averages 10 a game. Who knows, right? So he's a real max effort guy, both ends of the floor. He's going to be able to get you a bucket. As we've mentioned, he may be a primary in spurts, secondary, tertiary creator, shot maker. There's a lot to like. So as we've said, if you like Devin Booker and someone like Devin Booker, if you like someone like a Jim Jackson or a Joe Johnson or any of these guys, right? Bogdanovich, then you should feel pretty good taking him in the top 10.
I couldn't have said it better. I agree. I mean, I think we went real deep on Johnny Davis, and this was such a fun episode. P, it's been too long, man. Anytime you come on, I mean, not too many guys we're going to start getting into conversations about some of the guys that we mentioned today. I can't even remember some of the guys we hit. Moochie Norris.
Speedy Claxton.
Only when the three of us link up are we gonna get that. But I had a lot of fun, man. Tell the folks where they could find you and your work and your rebuilds and all the stuff you got going on.
PeeWeeDaPlug everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Through the Wire podcast. Got a lot of stuff going on with just the company. I think I'm supposed to be on NBA TV this Friday.
Let's go
with Channing Frye. So I might poke him some questions about Stoudemire. Yeah. So just working, trying to give myself some time to dive into the draft so I can be as qualified in some of these conversations. Obviously, the top part of the draft with these Johnny Davis guys, I'm qualified for, but you start talking about the Blake Wesleys and things like that. I got to start getting myself ready for that. It's been tough because I think when we started connecting, it was kind of around the pandemic where everybody was.
That was it.
Yeah, so it was like now I'm getting back to work, and HOH and Bleacher Report has me going to San Francisco, then Cleveland. Now they want me to go to Vegas and come back home and then go back to Cal. It's tough to do this stuff, and I'm trying to find the time, man. I'm trying to find the time. It's going to be a good one. I like this draft a lot. I think you guys, I owe you guys a lot with the articles, the content, and everything, because it's helped me keep up with a lot of stuff. You don't know, Corey. Ryan Rollins. I love that guy. You put me on. I love that guy a lot. I hope he can get drafted because he's nice.
He's nice.
Yeah.
We're going to cover him soon because
oh boy,
he's a guy that a lot of people don't know about right now. He plays at a small school, but that dude is smooth, man. He's like guard Brandon Ingram a little bit. Like he's just he's a lot of fun. The No Ceilings team probably gonna be mad at me at how high I have him on my big board when we create the next No Ceilings conglomerate board. Because
I hope the Knicks watch. I hope the Knicks are watching, man, because and I don't want to start another conversation. I know we're wrapping up, but I'm seeing these mocks and they're tying us up to Ty Washington. No disrespect to Ty. I don't know if he's the answer for the Knicks. And when I look at this draft and I see the Alondas Williams kid from Wake Forest, he should be available later on. We're talking about Ryan Rollins. There's a lot of guys who could be very nice later to not afford you to have to use a top 10 pick on a guard. So we'll see. But again, thank you guys because I use it more than y'all know. I'll be up I've been times I'm on a plane and I'm just scrolling through article after article trying to catch up.
And that's what we're trying to do, man. We're trying to the draft is, it's crazy, and that's why I love having you on the show, because I feel like are one of the people who can balance the draft talk with NBA talk, because it's very intense following the draft. Like you have to go deep on a ton of guys, and if you follow the NBA is hard to keep up with. Like to watch every team know what you're talking about, you got to do a lot. So for you to balance it, that's, we appreciate the fact that you can actually come and have these conversations, and not just have them, but like we value you as a guest for your opinion on them. You know what I mean?
No, I appreciate it.
Because there are a lot of guys that are faking the funk. I'll read these. Yeah, I read the mock drafts or whatever, and they'll say, do a little breakdown or something on a paragraph on the player, and I'm like, damn, you ain't watched him one time.
Exactly.
So, you know what I mean? And that's what we love to do. We love to go deep, and you can go as deep as we can. So, I can't wait to have you back on the show. You're killing it right now. You and the whole crew. Like I'm super proud of everything you got going on right now, and just a pleasure to have you on, man.
No, thank you guys, man. Anytime y'all have an opening, I'm always one message away. Keep killing it. And I truly do think that you guys have something special boiling up. The draft has become such this big topic. And I agree. There are a lot of guys faking the funk because that's just the reality of the world that we're in with basketball. Where like I can Google real quick basketball reference and think I know who Johnny Davis is.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you guys, and I gravitated to you guys because it is authentic, it is real, and you guys do the homework, which is important. So once the rest of the world starts to be able to see that, and I think slowly but surely you guys are building brick by brick, which is more important than a quick spark. I think it's going to be something special, and I'm trying my best to continue to push the word. I share as much as I can and support because I really am invested, and I do think it's going to be special with how popular the draft is becoming. Man, it is getting so popular. Like every time I Google something or YouTube something, there's like so many channels and so many guys doing so many different things, and you guys are the pillars of this next wave. So I appreciate you guys more than you know, man.
Hey man, we're trying to set the bar. Trying to set the bar for all these guys entering the space, man. Albert, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me at Alberto Gim. You can also find me at GTGNBA. Just want to say, I know Corey went on like a whole thing, but AP, really appreciate it, man. I remember last time you were on the pod, it was right before the draft. You asked me to follow you on Twitter, and I was like so shocked when I realized that I wasn't following you already. I don't know what the hell that was, but obviously I'm following you now. And man, every time we post anything, it feels like you're retweeting us and putting us out there. And that means so much to us. Our pod too, even just like our Draftdaq pod, you've put us on so many times already. So we really appreciate all the support because I tell this to Corey all the time, but like it still feels like we're just starting and all this feels so new and crazy, and I personally feel like I still have no idea what I'm doing. And so whenever you support us like that, encourage us like that, it means a lot. So did want to say that to you while on the show, that I really appreciate all your support and all the kind words that you've had for us. And obviously everything that you're doing is unbelievable, and in a lot of ways we kind of want to get to where you are one day. So really appreciate you coming on once again. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Realest dude in the game, man. All right, that's going to be it for this episode of the Draftdaq podcast. We will be back next week with another random prospect to go deep on. Until then, y'all, thank you for rocking with us. We out. Peace.
Peace.